Alright, back in the office, going to answer some of your questions from the comments, the most interesting ones at least, for quite a lot of them today. Okay, Andrea Costa. Is it Andre Acosta or Andrea Costa? Anyway, asks, hey, I'm also struggling with Korean. How would you go about learning vocabulary with associations? Could you make one example for me? Um, Not right now because I don't have Korean in front of me, although I will make a video with some associations for Korean. The main thing is Korean alphabet is easier than Chinese or the Chinese or the Japanese writing systems because it's phonetic and this it's pretty logical. But it sounds so different that, and also it takes some time to adapt and to learn the alphabet, right? So what I recommend is simply listening to the words and try to think of something that sounds like that word instead of first learning to read, and that's going to take a long time. Just create an association with something that sounds, or two things that sound like that word if it's a longer word. And yeah, do it mostly by listening, because also if you use, and I've tried this, if you use phonetic transcript, you use ChatGPT or something else to rewrite the Korean phonetically, the way it's written phonetically has nothing to do with the way it sounds. It sounds way too different the way you imagine it sounds when you read it, when it's written phonetically, and the way it actually sounds is so different that it's pretty much useless to do that in my experience. So what I recommend you do is just listen to it and learn and associate something that sounds like it, but with the sound. Do it by ear, not by reading. You learn to read and write later on. Okay. Top Seal Guy says, when it comes to input, do you prefer podcasts or things such as cartoons and movies? Do I look like a kid? Well, you can watch whatever you want to, right? But in my experience, the most effective way to do input, especially listening, is podcasts. Well, more effective than that is to create audio files of your own language islands and binge listen to them, because those are your own sentences, right? That's the best way to learn the basics and the best way to also uh, learn basic comprehension, but also to work on your speaking, right? But once you've done that, podcasts are much better than watching films or than watching. If you like watching things, just go watch things. Yeah, okay. But it, I wouldn't consider it the main. I wouldn't do it as the main thing to get comprehensible input, simply because it's very time consuming. Films and videos have a lot of filler, and you have to sit down and watch instead of put on your earplugs and not earplugs, on your earbuds or whatever they call the Apple things. And you can, for example, on the way here, I was listening to language learning materials. On the way back home, I listen to language learning materials. When I work out in the calisthenics park, when I go for a run in the evening, I will listen to language learning material. Also, when I don't know, buying food or brushing my teeth, even, I listen to, or showering, I listen to language learning material. So podcasts are much more, one, there's more language in the, like there's more language per hour because it's just constant talking instead of action and people looking at each other and music and all that stuff like you get in films or series or videos. And also, not only more language per hour, but also it's much more convenient. You can listen to it anytime, right? You can be doing something else. You can be driving, commuting to work, anything, and don't work while you listen to. I've had people ask me that, like, should I listen to it while I work? I'm an accountant. And no, of course not. You're going to, first of all, you're not going to pay much attention to what you're listening to, but also you're going to make mistakes because your brain is numbers on one side, then weird words on the other side. And no, what you need is something that you can do on autopilot. If you're walking, you can walk and think at the same time, right? Or you can brush your teeth and think at the same time while you're showering, putting some clothes on. You're doing like, if you're going through the motions, it's another thing if you are doing really hard workouts, like a bodybuilder, and you're like, each workout's like to the death, and that's a different story. But if you're just going to the gym like 3 times a day and just going through the motions, then yeah, you can listen to it. I don't listen to it while I'm doing jiu-jitsu or boxing, but I do listen to it while I'm just doing like a bunch of pull-ups, for example. So yeah, podcast much better. Next, it would be interesting to see your progress in Turkish. Yeah, my Turkish is still. The thing is, I stopped. I started but then stopped because I had friends visiting, and I've been. You probably will notice that I haven't been posting out many videos recently. It's because I've been learning languages in a different way. More than learning, I've been practicing the ones I've already learned. That's fun as well. It's fun to go to bars and talk to people, hang out with Germans, with Brazilians, with Dutch, and so on. But if you, yeah, obviously I didn't have the time for that. Like, I did all the necessary work to keep my business going, and then like the language learning, it can wait for a week or two, right? And I'll get back to Turkish now that I've got time again. And I might make a video soon. The thing is, whenever I make videos speaking languages that are not English, the views are just like 10% of what the English language ones get. So it kind of feels like a waste of time. But also, you get all those people who constantly, just want to show that you speak the language. Oh, okay, yeah. It's not enough that I've got the certificates, and I'm in the Polyglot Association by invitation, by the way. I didn't ask to join. I've got lots of videos talking to people, but no, apparently I should do one of those. I've done some of those before. Polyglot speaks 17 languages, blah, blah, blah. I'll make one of those eventually. Okay. And I guess the more sentences, yeah, this is a good one. Shamil Center Entertainment says, and I guess the more sentences you memorize, the better you'll be able to just improv stuff because you've already gone through similar structures, the way and way of wording things many times. Yeah, so the thing with the language islands is that when you learn 500 or 1000 sentences, it doesn't mean that you can only use those 500 or 1000 sentences in real life. Once you've learned those 500 sentences really well, you know all the structures and you know a lot of vocab as well, and you've learned other vocab as well with associations. So you can easily use the same structures to create many other variations. So you're not able to say just 500 sentences. You're able to use those 500 and then create infinite variations with them. That's the beauty of language islands. If you can say, I like football and I like this and I like that and I don't like this, and then you've got a lot of vocab, you can also say you like a bunch of other things or you don't like a bunch of other things, even if you've never practiced a specific sentence. You've got the vocab and you know how to say, I like this and that, right? Language islands are a good way to learn a lot, all the grammar and all of vocab as well. It's not just this specific sentences that I will use. Yeah, you start with that, but if you keep practicing, eventually they just become a way to learn all the structures that you need and a lot of vocab. So yeah, you definitely can use a lot more than just the stuff you learned. Okay, I've been building a large database of sentences following your language island approach. I'm at 1000 plus sentences and just getting going. I'm very happy with this approach, especially the listening at 1.5 or double speeds. Yeah. Okay, good for you if you're able to do that. I guess if you just listen to the same sentences over and over again, at some point, yeah, you can do double speed. I'm wondering, since you use Link so much as do I, would you bother with this AI voice generator rather than just uh, so Link or TTS? Yeah, the thing is, oh yeah, and then he says, I might have answered my own question. The quality is much better. Yeah, Link has an audio generator and it's good. It's a useful tool. It's a useful tool, but if you, it sounds kind of weird, especially for some languages. And the TTS one is so much more. It sounds much smoother, much more natural. That's why I prefer using that one. But if you want to use the Link one, yeah, that's also no. But it's better than nothing, definitely. I mean, you could even ask a native speaker to read the whole thing and then send you a recording, right? And then someone tells him, would you be able to share the sentences, language islands you have so far? Would be a great help. And then the original comment is, sorry, no, I think the benefit of is doing the work yourself. You're right, yeah. Also, it kind of sucks that it's kind of cheeky to ask someone, okay, you took all that time and work to write all that stuff. Can I use your list? I mean, you can use my list. It's in the description in the free course. But yeah, it's a lot of work. The most work is writing them down. So telling someone, "Yeah, can I use your list?" Also, is right that uh, your own sentences, yeah, you can use mine, but use them do not memorize my own, because you don't talk about the same things, you don't have the same experiences, uh, you don't speak the way I do. Just use it to get ideas and modify them. And if I've got a story about something, use the same structure to write a story about something that happened to you. Do not learn the story from the time I ended up in a hospital in Thailand or something. That's that's my story. So you're not gonna tell stories that never happened to you, right? Or you're not going to talk about boxing or jiu-jitsu when you do something else. If you're really into chess, then talk about chess. Use the same structures to talk about the same thing. So you've got the work structure, the work language islands. Okay, not a language coach, so you shouldn't learn that. Instead, use the same structure and write about whatever you do for work. And same for your hobbies, same for where you live, etc. But yeah, no, language islands, best thing you can do. But it's a lot of work at first. Once you, if you front load, like if you front load the language islands, if you do it, if you work really hard on them, take a weekend, write everything down, translate everything, create audio files. I'm quite lazy for this, by the way. I've been doing this for a long time, and I keep adding stuff. But if you want to do it from scratch, it's a lot of work. But if you, yeah, take a weekend, write everything down, and then you've got the best language learning materials you'll find, because you created it yourself and it's your own sentences, and with this you'll be able to talk endlessly. Okay, Leandro M. Ruiz says, excelente. ¿Se podría decir que Glossica utiliza o combina input comprensible con repetición espaciada? Sí, Glossica es una combinación de input comprensible con repetición espaciada. La diferencia entre Glossica y simplemente leer o ver vídeos es que es la repetición espaciada. Si vemos suficiente contenido, también tenemos repetición espaciada, porque las palabras eventualmente volverán a aparecer. Pero Glossica lo que nos ofrece es una estructura para hacerlo de manera más eficiente. Y esto sirve también para cualquier otro tipo de lista de frases. No palabras, sino frases. Si son solo palabras sueltas, ya no es input comprensible, ya no hay contexto ahí y es mucho más difícil, sin asociaciones, recordarlas. Lo que yo recomiendo es una combinación de las tres cosas. Asociaciones para el vocabulario, al principio especialmente, repetición espaciada para revisar dichas asociaciones y input comprensible. Al principio, asociaciones más repetición espaciada, después input comprensible más repetición espaciada. Lo siguiente. Next one. Sorry, I just automatically switched to Spanish now. Just stay in the course with one language. Oh, do you have language learning goals for 2024? And Nick says, just stay in the course with one language. ADHD gets me crossed over into learning Arabic one week, Italian another, then Russian the following week, etc. Trust me, I know what you're talking about. I've got severe ADHD and I'm all over the place. Discipline isn't necessarily the problem because I do study every day. My problem is focusing on just one language and letting that be enough. Can someone who's remedied this help give me some insight as to how to stay committed? Actually, I'm gonna have ADHD. Yeah, I'm gonna answer the guy live so he comes and watches the video. Yeah, so I mean, if I had the solutions like 100%, if I had a solution that works 100% for ADHD, I'd probably be, I don't know, I'd be president of the country at least. I still struggle a lot with ADHD. I've got some tactics and strategies to deal with it and be more effective, but I still struggle a lot with it. I get distracted all the time. I lose focus. I start a thousand things at the same time and never finish them. Happens to me sometimes. This is one of the reasons why I go really hard on one language for a few days. I learn all the basics and then I just go on cruise mode. So I do what I feel like doing, because otherwise I can't take one language and study it for 6 months or 3 months, just that language, because there are so many that are so interesting that I would always quit if I did that. So what I do is take 3 or 4 days or 1 week, maybe 2 weeks sometimes if it's a very difficult one, and I learn this language really hard. I study hard. I memorize lots of vocab. I use the language islands. All the intensive part I do it with one language at a time. And with all the other languages I'm interested in, I graze. So throughout the day, I'll get input in them. It's not the most effective way of doing it. Ideally, you just memorize lots and lots of vocab, more language islands, more translation work, more listening and repeating. All the stuff, I do it with one, maybe 2 languages at a time intensively. Intensively, I mean 2 or 3 hours a day. And with all the rest, I just listen to stuff, mostly have conversations, and read as well. I know I talk against reading often. It's not the most effective thing to do, but once you've learned the basics, it's a good way to keep improving. So yeah, go hard with one language at a time, and because the level of difficulty was up. Like it's the amount of effort you need to do is very high in the beginning when the language is the most difficult, and then after learning 1,000 most common words and around 1,000 sentences with language islands, you can just take it easy, and from there you just keep improving automatically just with input after doing that. So what I would do is to crush it for a few days, and then you cruise, and then you crush it again, you cruise, yeah. Other techniques, tactics, strategies to deal with ADHD. Meditation helps. Having a to-do list helps as well. The more detailed the to-do list is, the better. Write everything down that you need to do. If you've got several projects at the same time, you write down every step of each one of the projects, and every day you write down the exact steps of the project you wanna do. Because I'll work on my YouTube channel, doesn't work. I'll make video about this, I'll make this, otherwise you just like, it all becomes one confusing mass of tasks that all like have like you're halfway through them. Some of them you just barely started, or like they've been there and you to do this for a while and you never really get around to doing them. The more you compartmentalize, the smaller, if you break them up into smaller and smaller pieces, it's going to be easier. Also, there's an app called Petit Bambou en français. That's It's got 2 minute meditation sessions, things like that. I do Huberman's NSDR 10-minute one as well, but that's longer, right? Do that maybe once a day when I remember to do it. But the Petit Bambou one is good because you get 30-second, 2 minute sessions to every time you get in, just you notice you're losing focus, like disengage, sit in the sofa, or lay in bed, 2 minute meditation session, get some clarity, go back to work. Yeah. Also, I use a lot of news, the newsfeed eradicator, ad blogs, not ad blogs only, but like yeah, any kind of feeds. Web feeds are blocked. A lot of distracting websites are blocked. Social media mostly blocked most of the day. Otherwise, email as well. Don't check it. Anything that's distracting, just phone somewhere else. I need all those things for work, and it can because I use social media and my phone to talk to my clients, to obviously promote myself on social media. It can be extremely distracting. I go to Twitter, write a post or a thread or something. Next thing, I see something about something going on in Ukraine, and before I realize, I've spent 1 hour reading about the latest development in Russian tanks and this and that, and it happens to me all the time. And the fact that I understand Russian and Ukrainian, and I can read articles, and it's because it feels like, okay, I'm practicing my Russian. This is productive. And no, I should be doing work. Yeah. So that's why I often speak against comprehensible input, because for me it can be another form of procrastination, because comprehensible input is very slow, and it can also be obviously it's interesting to do. If you're watching interesting stuff, if you're listening to interesting stuff or reading interesting stuff, you're learning, yeah, but you can use it to do something. Yeah, basically you're consuming content instead of doing the work, but you're telling yourself that you that you're doing something productive when it's not as bad if you're learning Russian and you're watching Russian videos. It's not as bad as watching, I don't know, some nonsense on TikTok, but or some gossip or something, but you're still learning. Yeah, but do that at your free time. Do not consider work or study time, because it's not a high impact activity. Do the high impact activities first. That's another thing. If you've got things to do, everyone has things to do. But if you've got projects, write down the one or the three most important things that you need to do in the day, in the week. The 3 goals for the week, or like 5 goals, or whatever goals you have. You write them like always use a planner, write them at the beginning of the week, and then break them up into daily goals and attack all the high impact, the most important things first thing in the morning. Do everything, no distractions, nothing. No, wake up 5 o'clock in the morning and do meditation and this. No, no, no. Do the 2 minute meditation session if you start getting distracted and stressed, and yeah, no. But otherwise, wake up, laptop, most important task first. Once it's done, maybe quick break. Second most important task. When it's done, third most important task. And if you do this daily, you'll make a lot of progress. I could give you, no, I couldn't because I've never tried. I've never tried medication, Adderall, or any of that stuff. I probably should, to be honest. But that's my advice. Eliminate distractions as much as you can, especially if you work, if you do, if you work with a computer, your phone as well, very dangerous. Quick quick breaks regularly, quick meditation sessions, and to-do list and attack all the important tasks first. That's my advice about ADHD. And for languages, yeah, go really hard on one language, do all the high impact stuff for a few days or a week, and then just cruise and just learn by with input and speaking. And then you can attack another language and get all the basics. That's why I go really. That's why I do like 7 days one language or 1 month one language. I don't really do 1 month just crush in one language. Normally I crush it for a week and then I just cruise because it's unsustainable. It needs to be sustainable. That's why um, learning a lot in 1 week, it can be done. I do it all the time. I talk about it, but I do it. Uh, it's like an athlete who's training for a competitive event, right? I crush it for a while and then I cruise. I keep learning, but same as training. If you're going to compete at something, you train super hard. You're in training camp for a while, and then once you're done competing, you don't stop training completely. Or when you're not preparing for a competition or fight, in my case or whatever, you don't stop completely. You just keep doing it, but you don't go as hard because your body can take it. Here's the same: your mind needs rest, so you should have sprints where you do a lot of progress, but you get tired, and then you keep improving, but at a pace that's sustainable. Anyway, that was long. I hope you found this helpful. Uh, Questions, more questions. Do you have learning goals for 2024? I'm learning Spanish through Dreaming Spanish, and I want to get to level 5, 600 hours of input before the end of the year. You're wasting your time. Next question. Do we use review function? Okay. This is about link. How to learn vocabulary fast. Yeah, the thing with link is good. I know I criticize Steve Kaufman often, but link is good. It's just not the most effective way to learn if you just breathing with it, or just watching videos. What I recommend is regularly going, ideally daily, go into the vocabulary, where you have all the words that you clicked on because you didn't know, and you create associations for all of them. Or at least, I mean, not all of them. The ones that you associated the previous days, you don't need to. You just quickly review it. But if you do this at the beginning of the session, because this is, I mean, association vocabulary can be fun as well, but for a lot of people, this is hard work. But if you do this in the beginning of the session, you'll have memorized a lot of words, and then next when you start with the input, there will be a lot more that you can remember. So associations will make input much more effective. Also more interesting because you understand more, easier. So it's a snowball, right? And snowball will go much faster and get bigger way faster if you use associations. Start with 30 words a day. It's not that hard. But memorizing 100 words or more a day is very doable once you practice a little bit. Okay, next question. What does a typical daily routine look like for a polyglot? That sounds weird. That's typical. Chat GPT, right? I swear, some people just write comments with chat GPT. I see it all the time. Typical day. Well, I'm at the University of Deusto right now, where I've got my office. Sometimes I come here, sometimes I don't. If I come, I already start listening to materials on the way here. Well, I start already having breakfast in the shower, and on the way here, I keep listening to my language islands over and over. So, yeah, listening early morning, and then obviously I don't listen when I'm working. But once I'm done working, what I do is short sessions of intensive learning, active recall, memorization of vocabulary with associations. Active recall meaning listening and then checking if I understood it or not, over and over. Listening and repeating. All these intensive exercises, I do them like with a timer. You could call it the Pomodoro technique, something like that. I don't necessarily do 25 minutes every session. Depends on the exercise and the mood, right? But I do like 2, 3, 4 hours a day of learning, like sitting down and studying, depending on the mood. After work, if I work out outside or in the gym, I mean, if my workout of the day is not boxing or Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu, I mean, it's something that's just going through the motions, like lifting weights or doing pull-ups outside or going for a run, then I also listen to more stuff. Depending on the mood, if I'm already exhausted, then I just listen to podcasts. If I'm still in the mood to do more intensive learning, then I do more language islands when I'm listen to them again. And if I've been repeating them aloud over and over earlier in the learning session, then when I listen to them, I understand everything. And this repetition of listening to them in the morning on the way to work, and then repeating them aloud in the learning session in the afternoon, and then in the evening while working out, listening to them again. If you do this over and over, you can learn hundreds of sentences in a few days very easily. It's just the same sentences, and it's your own sentences, right? And that's basically what I do. Also, I've started recently. I know I talk. I know. I usually speak against. I've spoken against flashcards for a long time, but I've started doing flashcards now to get extra reviewing time. In the evening, the sofa, just if I'm hanging out there, like I'm watching something with my girlfriend or something. I often just like go instead of doing some other nonsense on my phone, I just review a few hundred flashcards as well, which with Anki, which by itself is not very effective, I think, if you don't do associations. But because I've associated those words before, then I also associate them when if there's one that I don't know, I'll associate it in the moment just quickly. But yeah, basically I learn languages until it's time to go to bed. How to learn grammar? How to? I've answered this so many times. How to learn grammar? Well, you take a grammar book and you study lesson 1, do all the exercises, and then you go to lesson 2 and you learn whatever grammar points. No. You learn vocab. You start listening to the language as much as you can. Use language islands, and grammar will be learned in context easily. Grammar is not that important if your goal is to understand, because if you know enough vocab and you do a lot of listening and you learn a few hundred sentences, grammar you learn it in context. And of course, you need to, if in order to speak well, you need to know exactly how grammar works. That's a different story. If you want to sound like, if you want your foreign language to sound really good, and you want to speak with very few mistakes, you need to know exactly how grammar works. And for that, you use the translation technique. You translate sentences into the language, you compare with the original, and you correct yourself. But that's for later. At first, learn vocab, use language islands, and do a lot of listening. And grammar, just in context, you learn it. Okay, it's half an hour already. More. Okay. Retrieval practice. Okay, this is a good. Yeah, retrieval practice is easy. It's basically retrieving information that's already stored there. So you've already seen it. If you already see like dog is perro in Spanish, it's already stored there somewhere. You just have to retrieve it fast enough. Well, first of all, you have to retrieve it effectively enough to understand it when you see it. Again, maybe you don't remember it. It's there somewhere. But then you have to retrieve it fast enough to be able to use it, right? So retrieval practice is basically, you can do it two ways. You can listen to it in a sentence without looking and try to understand what it means, and then you check and okay, I got it, or I didn't get it, and then you try again with another sentence. That's comprehension retrieval practice. That's retrieval practice for comprehension. Retrieval practice for speaking would be being fed sentences in your language and trying to say them in the target language, and then checking if you said it correctly or not. Yeah. So two types of retrieval practice: comprehension retrieval practice and speaking retrieval practice. Comprehension retrieval practice is hearing it and trying to guess what it means, to see if you understand or not, and then checking. Speaking retrieval practice means being fed sentences in your own language and trying to translate and seeing if you can translate it correctly or not. The first one is really good for your comprehension. The second one, the speaking one, is really good to improve your fluency, especially if you repeat the sentences aloud. It's really good for your fluency, your ability to think in the language, and also you will correct most of the mistakes you're making. It will improve your accuracy, your precision when you're speaking, because if you're saying things wrong, if they're grammatically wrong, then you'll see the right answer and okay, yeah, this conjugation was wrong and so on. And next time you'll probably remember it. So retrieval practice really, really effective. Way more effective than something like a comprehensible input with videos. That's why you don't need 600 hours of any of that nonsense. How can you, and this is the last one, by the way. It's been 40 minutes almost. How can you overcome the fear of speaking? How can you overcome the fear of speaking? Don't be afraid. They're not going to, that's stupid advice. That's like those people who are like, oh, to learn to speak a language, just get a girlfriend, or in order to be immortal, you just have to not die. It's dumb advice. To overcome the fear of speaking, just don't be afraid of speaking. No. Overall, constantly getting out of your comfort zone. I used to be very shy. And then I moved abroad and I started talking to people all the time, constantly having to do difficult things, and it became easier and easier and easier. If it's specifically about language learning, speaking foreign languages. And this happens to a lot of successful people. A lot of business people or people who are successful at something and they consider themselves, their self-image is of someone who is successful and competent and intelligent. They don't want to look stupid. Yeah? If you think of yourself as successful, intelligent, competent, you don't want to look stupid, you don't want to sound stupid. So you will avoid speaking a foreign language that you're learning because you're afraid of looking stupid. And you rarely look stupid because you're very competent at the things you do. How do we avoid that? Well, can you guess the answer? Of course, it's language islands. You prepare language islands, you write down everything you want to say, you translate it into the language you want to speak, and you rehearse it, you say all those sentences over and over and over again at home where it's safe, nobody can see you, and you say them enough times, and you also make an audio file and you listen to them over and over again until you can say those 500, 1,000, 10,000 sentences perfectly, perfect pronunciation, perfect grammar, no mistakes. You're never going to look stupid. You can talk as much as you want. No, I mean, at some point you'll make mistakes. I'm not talking 100% seriously here, right? Obviously, everyone makes mistakes, but you will make much fewer mistakes if you do this. And also, if you've been saying those things on your own over and over again, you won't be afraid of speaking because it's something you do all the time. Yeah, if you talk about yourself all the time on your own, you've trained for that situation. When you're in front of people, it's basically the same thing, and you only have to do it once or twice, and you realize it's like talking to myself. It's exactly the same thing. I just have to say the exact same lines. It's as simple as that. And most of the time, 99% of the time, they'll be impressed. There'll be occasional douche who's like, "Oh, you don't speak well, blah blah blah." Rarely happens, and it says more about them than it says about you. So don't really worry about it. Language islands, massive amounts of listening to the same language islands, massive amounts of repeating those language islands aloud, and also retrieval practice with the language islands. You read them in your own language and translate them into the language that you're learning, and then check if you say them correctly or not. And eventually you'll be able to say all the sentences with very few mistakes and with very good pronunciation. Yeah, so don't be afraid of speaking. Just practice a lot on your own and you'll be fine. And yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it for today. This went much longer than expected. So thanks for watching. I hope you found this helpful. Again, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and you've got a link to my free course in the description if you want.